everyone, welcome to WiseLink Academy. Today we want to reproduce this isometric as you can see in front of you. For every isometric, my first task is to draw what? Horizontal line and inclined 30 degree, right? Angle 30 degree, right? Because every isometric is produced from what? Inclined 30 degree, right? So let's do that. I will draw horizontal line this way, faint line. Then I'll take my set square, this man here, this way, and draw. This is angle of what? 30 degree. As you can see, take it this way around, draw it this way. It simply means the angle from this point here to this point is what? 30. Right? 30. My next task now is to, at this point, draw a vertical line upward. As you can see what I'm drawing. Now, from the question, if you look closely from the question, the length is going to be what? 150. Now, all the dimension here, I'm going to reduce them. I'm dividing them by 2. So take note of that. I'm dividing all the dimension by what? By 2. Because if I produce this, it's very, very big. But I need to what? Draw the half full size of this. So 50 divided by 2, 150 divided by 2, I have 75. 75. So I'll measure 75 at this point. From this point here to this point, I'll measure 75. As you can see, my 75. Now, next off, my next task, I've measured this place. This place was 100. 100 divided by 2, I have 50. So I'll measure 50. From this point here to this point is 50. Right? So, next up, I need to know my height. The height I'm seeing here is 40 and 65. So if I add them together, 40 plus 65, I have 105. Simply divide it by 2, I will have 52.5. So I will measure 52.5 for my meter rule. 52.5, 52.5, approximately 53, right? So let's measure 53. From this point is 50, 1, 2, 3. 53 is at this point here, right? So I will take it this way, connect those points together. Take this one at this point, take it upward. At this point here, take it upward, right? Similarly, at this edge here, this height, take it to close this. Take it this way to close this up, right? And finally take it up this way and take this to close it up this way. Now our aim now is to produce out a box. So every isometric, this you are seeing, every isometric was gotten out from what? A box, right? A box. So my next task now is that I need to clean all this unwanted line. I need to delete them. So if I do that, I'll be having this. So here you have the box in front of you. Now my first task is that at this point here, I'm having what? Measurement of what? 20. I need to get half of 20, that's 10. So I'll measure 10 from this point, 10 from this point. So if I do that, from this point here, I will measure out 10. Right? From this point here, I will measure out 10. So I will what? As you can see, it is thickened. The 10 is thickened. I will thicken it. Thicken this point to this point. Geometer rule. Thicken this point to this point. Right? So what's my next task? The height of this. No, okay. I will thicken this part here, this line here. That is, this line from this point to this point is thickened. Thicken it. So at that point, the height there is 40. I'll measure out for 40, that's 20. From this point here, I'll measure out 20. 24 at this point. I will thicken it downward this way. I will have this. So my next task is to take my set square, I mean this man here, this way, and connect it with a thick line to this point. As you can see what I'm doing. So similarly, take it this way to this point, connect it down to touch this point here. I don't need this. So connect it very well to touch the center point. I have this, right? So my next task also is to take it this way. After I haven't done that, take it this way, connect this point to this point with a thick line. Because it is thickened. What I just doing is copy and paste. You can see it is thickened. So this way, I have that. So next up, I need to measure out. As you can see, this point here is 40. From here to here is 40, right? So I have to this. If I want to get this line here, inner part here, is the height is what 20. Half of 20 is 10. I'll measure out 10 from this point. 10 from this point here to somewhere here is 10. This is coming 20. So measure out 10 from this point here to this point is 10, right? At that point 10, I will take it my t-square this way, right? As you can see, draw a faint line downward, faint line. So therefore I will close this part with a thick line, come to this point here, close it with a thick line. I have this. Similarly, I will take my meter rule to close these 2 points, this point and this point together with a thick line. So I have this, right? So similarly, thicken this part here. It is thickened from our drawing, right? It is thickened. I have this, right? It is thickened. So we successfully produce what is down here. Now what are our next tasks? If you observe closely, from this point here to somewhere here is what? 64. 64 divided by 2, I have 32. So from this point here, from this down point here, I'll measure what? I'll measure 32. 31, 2 at this point, right? So at that point, I will take my t-square this way, draw a faint line to this point. Now at this point, draw it this way. At that point, draw it down this way. Can you see that? Draw it down that way. So I don't really need this point, clean it to avoid confusion. Now I've gotten my 64 this way, right? Which is what? 32. Half of 64 is 32. So I've produced out this way. Now next up, I know that from here to here is 50. Half of 50 will be what? 25. This is 25 here, right? At that point, I will take my t-square this way. At that point, draw a faint line downward. As you can see, they both meet at this point, right? They meet at this point. Now at that point is this point you are seeing up here. The point is down, right? So the first task is that I need to dimension it. I'm given 75 here as the outer square here. It means here to here 75, 75, 75, 75. You know we are using half full size. We are dividing everything by 2. So divide 75 by 2. 75 divided by 2. I have 37.5. So I'm using now the dimension has changed to what? 37.5 because 75 divided by 2. I have what? 37.5. Right? That is what will be here. Now how will I establish 37.5 on this place? Now you just see 37.5 divided by 2. I have 18.75. So therefore I'll measure 18.75. 18 is 1.875 from this point to this point, right? I'll take it at this center point here, right? Draw an arc here, up here, and down this way. So my next task now are those points at each point. This point here, this point here, this point here, and this point here. I will take my t-square this way. Draw a faint line, right? faint line this way, 1. Go to the upper part here, draw a faint line this way. As you can see, similarly, come to this point here, take it this way, faint line, right? Come to the next point here, right at this point, faint line. So I have it. It's like a square, right? I have this. So my next task is what? I will take in this part here. From this point to this point, I'll take in it. Why? Because it is taking this point here, this point here. I'll take in these 2 points. Taking these 2 points. I have this, right? So next up is that this point here is a result of what? Of this point. So I'll draw a line upward. At this point here, I will draw a line upward. So that line I draw upward, I'll measure what? 65. I'm using half of the dimension. So 65 divided by 2, I have 65 divided by 2, I will have 32.5. So measure 32.5, 32.5, 32.5. I have this to this point, right? So I will similarly taking this point. I'll take in that point. After that, I will take my t-square at this point here, right? Draw a faint line upward at this point. Draw a faint line upward, as you can see, right? As you can see. So therefore, at this part I've taken, I will connect it to this part here. I just drew the thick line, right? This part here I just drew. So close it up this way. As you can see, we are already processing that figure. Next up, take it this way. Take this man this way. Connect it to that faint line you just drew earlier. I have this. Next up, take this way. Taking this man here. Similarly, I will take it upward this way, faint line. Then what? Take this to close it up. Right? Close it up. What it means is at this point. So taking this part too. I will take in this part here. So I have successfully produced that this box you are seeing. Now my next task is this is closing to this and this is closed. I need to close them. I will use my t-square this way. Close this point to this point, and similarly take it this way to close this point to this point. I have this. Now to avoid confusion, right? To avoid confusion, I need to clean all this unwanted line. So as you can see what we have been drawing since. So if I do that, I need to delete all these hidden lines, right? So if I do that, you'll be having this. So after deleting those hidden lines, I have this, right? So I have this figure here. My next task is that, as you can see from this given diagram, the dimension here, so there's an inner square here, right? Inner square here. So I need to what? Get the inner square. My first task is what? Get the center point. Get the middle point at this. So measure this from this point here to this point. I have 40, right? So if I measure for 40, that's 20. At this point is 20. I have 20 at this point. Similarly, take it to this point, right? I'll measure the half of it, right? Half of it, I get this point. So at those points, if we take it this way, at that point, the first point here, draw a faint line down this way, a faint line down. Similarly, the other point here, a faint line down. Alright, I get my center. This is my center point. Right? At this center point here, my next task now is what? The dimension given there is what? 50. I'm not using 50, I'm using half of 50, that's 25. Now, question is that how will I establish 25 on this place? So I will simply divide 25 by 2. I have 12.5. So I will measure 12.5 for my meter rule. That's 1.2. 12.5, right? 12.5. So that's approximately 13, right? So from this point, 1, 10, 11, 12, 13. That is 13, right? At this point, come to this point here, strike an arc upward, downward, left and right this way, right? So at those points I will take my t-square this way, or I will take my t-square this way, set square this way, right? At this point, draw a faint line, come to another point here. At this point, right, draw a faint line. Similarly, take it this way. At this point here, draw a faint line. Alright, take it to the upper part here. At this point here, draw a faint line. So I will what? Simply ticking that inner box. So if I do that, I have this point here to this point, right? From this point here to this point, from this point here to this point, and from this point here to this point, right? As you can see, so we have successfully what? Replicate what is at the right corner of this man here to be this, right? So what's my next task here? Dimension, right? So if I want to do that, I have it this way. Dimension means putting the values you are having, the dimension, the numbers here inside it. So if I do that, I have this. Alright, we have successfully replicated the figure, as you can see in front of you. If you have found this class helpful, do not forget to click on the subscribe button and like. Thank you. Welcome to WiseLink Academy.